guys, did you know that this video is brought to you by you? That's right boys, YouTube decided to give me the join option. You guys can now basically subscribe like on Twitch to my channel for $4.99 US per month. I'm going to be doing private live streams monthly for you guys if we can get enough people to join, as well as you guys will be named off with my patrons when I thank all my supporters, like Andrew, Bloggin Fletcher, Bubby, Infinitum Gamer, Paxis, and Rodney. Thank you for all your support. Alright boys, a lot of tier list videos coming out. It's a new thing. I'm not the person that tends to jump onto things, but I think this could be a really fun opportunity to do one of these. Now, we have empires spanning all sorts of timelines, okay? We have empires from the same country, but multiple versions of them. We've got tons of that kind of stuff. Mostly the largest extent versions of them. And this video is very loose, so try not to get too triggered by it. Just know this is a joke. Just know this whole thing is, for the most part, a joke. That being said, if you do disagree very much with any opinion I give here, make sure to record your own video and reply to me, as well as I'm calling out all of the other Paradox YouTubers to make their own empires tier list and reply to this video. Anyways, boys, let's get into this. Now, this guy right here I am using to represent the Umayyad Caliphate because there's no real flag that I can find online for it. I'm sure there's something, but this is just sort of sitting in for it. Now, this caliphate did have the benefit of Islam being a brand new religion, and everyone wanted to join in on it, and everyone was really hyped for it, and everyone had a whole bunch of gold. So they conquered a lot of stuff really fast, including Spain, which was a Christian area. Now, did they get driven back out within 400 years? Yes. And did the empire fall apart extremely fast after it rose? Yes. But we can't neglect the accomplishments. Umayyad is definitely B tier. Now, the Japanese Empire, they did a lot of bad stuff, as did most of these empires, but it's still in the memory of most people these days because it happened so recently. Now, they did a pretty good job of taking over territory for being a relatively small country, and for the most part, they only were able to expand based on the circumstances of their position. I think that the Japanese Empire is C tier. The Italian Empire, on the other hand, struggled to take over a country that fought with sticks the first time, and struggled even harder even though it won the second time, and was basically the embarrassment of World War II on the Axis. But you gotta admit, Mussolini's chin is pretty good. The Italian Empire is gonna be E tier. Now, the Ottoman Empire, again, is one of these situations. It lasted a really long time. The first half, it did really good. The second half, it was basically in continual decline since the Siege of Vienna. And when you have a continual decline for 250 years, that looks really bad on your record. But I'd give it a solid C. So yes, Ottoman Empire is also going to be C tier. Now, Austria-Hungary was sort of like the Italy version of World War I, where they needed German military officers to basically lead all their troops. They couldn't even take over Albania and Serbia without German military commanders coming to help them. And for the first part of the war, they got their butt kicked by a relatively weaker nation, Italy. But I don't think in World War I, Austria-Hungary was as much of an embarrassment as Italy was in World War II. So I think they're still ahead of the Italian Empire, and we're going to put them in D tier. Now, the British Empire, I mean, the largest empire in the world, it was continually strong. The only thing I think you can really nail them for is losing the American Revolution. I think the British Empire is a solid A tier. Now, the French Second Empire, I'm using the normal French flag. This one down here is the French First Empire. The Second Empire of France is going to include the colonial empire of France up until the abdication of Napoleon for good. And the Second French Empire is going to be Napoleon III onwards. Now, the French Second Empire, I mean, not the greatest track record. It's mostly known for Napoleon III losing to Prussia. It's known for it barely winning, barely holding on in World War I, and getting conquered in World War II. Now, even though it conquered the Sahara Desert, I don't think that's much of an accomplishment. I think the French Second Empire is a solid F tier. Alright boys, the Mongol Empire. Definitely up there with the British Empire. It was the largest land empire ever created. I mean, these guys eradicated entire populations of people. They changed entire demographics. Millions upon millions of people share Genghis Khan's DNA. And when the people didn't resist the Mongols, it was actually a fairly peaceful empire to live under. They respected your religion, and they didn't screw with you too much as long as you paid your taxes. I think the Mongol Empire is definitely an S tier. Now, the Byzantine Empire, Really cool design. Constantinople, beautiful city. But it just never lived back up to the height of the Roman Empire. It was just constantly getting conquered. It got sacked by the Crusaders. It needed the support of other nations to stay alive for as long as it did. It really shouldn't have existed for that long, but it still has the spirit of the Roman Empire within it. I'd say the Byzantine Empire gets D tier. Alright boys, the Mexican Empire. It was handed over a bunch of land from Spain that it couldn't control, and it lost all that land to a country that wasn't even an empire. And the whole point of being an empire is to impose yourself over countries that aren't empires. The Mexican Empire, complete failure, F tier. Alright boys, Third Reich. I'm using a little bit of that censored version, just like Hearts of Iron uses. You know, they conquered the whole of Europe for the most part. They only lasted, I mean, the big great extent of the empire only lasted about 4 years. The entire world was essentially against them. They were bound to lose. There really was no way they were going to win the war. But you got to admit, they rocked some really cool outfits. They built some really cool tanks. And they had some of the best military leaders. Even though I think, in my opinion, Rommel is a little overrated, but he's still pretty cool. I think the Third Reich is a solid C tier. Alright boys, the French First Empire. Even though in its beginnings it really struggled against the British Empire in North America, by the time Napoleon rolled around, he resolved the debt by selling Louisiana to America. He raised a huge army. He conquered Europe. He almost did it again. France was known as the greatest land European power, even before Napoleon. Massive coalitions of nations could not take on the French Empire. In my humble opinion, the French First Empire is S tier, mostly just because of God Emperor himself. Alright boys, the German Empire. It was success after success after success with Bismarck, but after that, it was all downhill. I think the German Empire gets a solid B tier. They're mostly just remembered for losing World War I. The Holy Roman Empire, your government was so weird and didn't make any sense. Your name didn't make any sense. E tier. The Qing dynasty, I put them instead of other dynasties because the Qing was the largest. Just like all the Chinese dynasties, a lot of success in the beginning and then just downward spiral, downward spiral. Massive opium crisis, mostly imposed in by European powers, and brutal, horrible rebellions and civil wars ensued within this empire. I think D tier suits the Qing dynasty quite well. The Spanish Empire, one of the largest land empires ever, one of the largest colonial empires ever. I think it's the second largest colonial empire. But once God Emperor invaded, they had no control over all those colonies. They took way too much land. F-tier empires like the Mexican Empire were able to come out and steal all of this empire's stuff. But you can't deny the accomplishments. I think Spanish Empire is C tier. Russian Empire had some really, really great emperors, as well as one of the most badass female leaders in the world, Catherine the Great, who expanded this empire's territory like a mad lad, but it was just generally a very unstable, very outdated, and very unindustrialized empire, which led up to its horrible demise towards the end of World War I. Russian Empire, solid C tier. Alright, Poland-Lithuania was really handed a bad hand. The only reason I think it was able to rise when it did because the Russians and the Germans were preoccupied with other stuff at the time, so the Central Eastern European Empire was able to rise. But once Russia got its stuff together and Germany got its stuff together, this country had no chance. But you gotta admit, the Polish Lancers, who came to save Vienna, how did this country reach the Black Sea? That's insane to me. And an amazing flag. I'll give Poland-Lithuania A tier. Portuguese Empire, really famous for its trading and its spices. It was sort of just a smaller version of the Spanish Empire, but it lasted longer. It was able to hold on to itself. A mistake that the Spanish made, getting too big. But when you remember European empires, you don't really ever think of Portugal. You think of things like Britain and France. Portugal, you're respected, but I don't think you live up to your counterparts. I'm going to give you D tier. Rome, one of the most famous empires of all time. Really cool looking soldiers, amazing historical generals, but the infighting just really keeps it from reaching the height that it would. It was just too big. Rome gets a solid B tier. And last but not least, Persia. Persia, you got conquered by a teenager. I'm sorry. You are really cool. One of the largest empires to ever exist. A really cool looking empire, borders-wise. But you just never could conquer that tiny little mountainous region in the Mediterranean, could ya? Persia gets a solid C tier. Alright boys, make sure if you disagreed to make your own videos responding to mine. I'm sure there's a lot of empires that I missed. When I was making this, I thought that I probably should have added like the Aztecs or the Inca, and then when I was talking about Persia, I probably should have brought in Macedonia as well. But I don't want to make this video too long. If you want to include them in your videos, make sure you do. Again, all Paradox YouTubers, please respond if you don't agree with me. Make your own tier list, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.